Hi guys, welcome back. Today's book video is going to be a what did I read in the second week of October summary. So I finished 5 books. Beware flying cats in this house. There may be some dashing across the screen. They think it's fun. I had to do several takes of the last video I posted because there was one where every 5 seconds a cat would fly across the screen, and it continued for the whole 14 minutes of the video. There are only 4 adult cats here. Only 4. But it sure looked like a lot more. It was insane. And I think they think it's a game now. Anytime I'm recording, they have to dash, right up to where I'm sitting and, jump across. Kids jumping over lava. They're cute. Anyway, so I finished 5 books in the second week of October. I did also listen to some audiobooks that were kind of rereads, but because they were rereads, they were background listening, not something I was really focused on entirely. So I was re-listening to Ubik by Philip K. Dick last night, and a couple nights ago as well. So kind of sort of counts, but I'm not going to check it off again. So the books I read in print for the second week of October. First one I'm going to talk about is a play, The Mouse That Roared. This is a play based on a book. So the book it's based on was written by Leonard Wibberley. And the play is written by Christopher Sergel. This is a story about a tiny duchy, kind of in France, but independent, and they go to war with the United States, or they declare war on the United States and accidentally win, and with hilarious results, or at least hilarious if you like that kind of humor. I found it a little flat, but with the right actors, I suppose it could be okay. Not the best play I've ever read. I did read some of it out loud to my cats. It didn't help that much. But it's not really my style of humor. So, probably I'm just not going to like that one much. So, the second book I'm going to pull up here is Georgette Heyer. They Found Him Dead. This is a murder mystery from the 30s, from 1937. Georgette Heyer also wrote romances. I'm not reading those, but I might read some more murder mysteries. One of my friends loves Georgette Heyer, so that's why I have this book. It's not my favorite, but the author wasn't so terrible that I'm not willing to try more. Partly it's just kind of a cliched story, except that in the 30s there weren't so many stories like it, so it was less of a cliche. There's an inheritance. There's several people that stand to inherit, and they start dropping like flies, and it's not really clear who's doing it, because each time the one that dies next is the one that seems like they might have done it, maybe. So it was okay. Just a murder mystery. Both of those, I would say, I would rate them 3 or 3.5 stars on Goodreads. And then on my 10-point decimal system, they would probably be a 5.5 for The Mouse That Roared and a 5.7 for Georgette Heyer's book. American Pastoral, I talked about briefly in another video. This is the only book I finished this week from the 1001 Books You Must Read Before You Die list. One of these times I'll read one where I love it. This is not one of those times. It was okay. I wouldn't have given it the Pulitzer Prize either. So if this is the book he won the Pulitzer Prize for, which the cover says he won it, I'm not sure if he or if the book is being referred to here, though. It was okay. It was definitely a story about an American family and that they emigrate here, they start a factory, society changes, all the things that made the factory successful crumble out from under them, and then on top of that, the youngest generation is insane and definitely not going to carry on the family business. In a nutshell, that's American Pastoral. If you like gloves or leatherwork, there's some bits earlier on that are really kind of fun, but after a while, the story kind of goes downhill where it just devolves into a jumble. Flying cats. Yeah, so the other murder mystery I read was Fatal Voyage by Kathy Reichs. This one's a more modern book, 2001, about Temperance Brennan, our intrepid forensic anthropologist. She's a forensic anthropologist who's a bit clueless when it comes to protecting herself from people that want to kill her. She's like that in the show, too. In that respect, the show got her right. Because she is responding to a horrific plane crash. It's very nice that I read that scene before footage from the Gaza-Israeli war started. Because the grisliness of that scene matches the grisliness of what we could see in real life this week. So I'm glad that I got that scene out of the way before the war started. So you might want to skip this book until things die down a little bit so you don't have to see images that match the first scene. They're not too graphic. This is still not a horror novel. But, it's not the nicest imagery. But, so Temperance Brennan gets called in to be a forensic anthropologist to identify body parts and identify people. And then partway through, she's pulled off the case, and there are threats made against her, and some of them seem rather deadly. And she just never seems to catch on that people are trying to kill her. So she'll wander into situations where the reader is, cringing, like, please don't do this. This is stupid. And she does it anyway. She doesn't realize that would be dangerous or stupid or she doesn't care. I don't know. I'm amazed Temperance Brennan survives the series, frankly. So not my favorite Temperance Brennan novel, but not terrible either. The crash in the background was one of the foster kittens. They're having fun. And then we have the last book for this week, A Spell of Good Things by Ayobami Adebayo. So this is a depressing book, set in, I think, Nigeria, set in kind of the Gold Coast area of Africa, anyway, in a city. And it's centered around a kid whose parents can't afford to keep sending him to school. And he and his sister are both going to a private school, which is somewhat better than the public school. Although both are horribly abusive and don't seem like the best of schools, but make you feel good about being in a place where you get a good education, at least. He gets into some really bad situations trying to figure out how to pay for his own education. Basically, he destroys his family in the process. Meanwhile, there's also a young woman who's finished medical school, started as a doctor in a hospital where she's really taken for granted and treated horribly. And she's dating a guy who's abusive and really quite an asshole. She doesn't see him that way. She's in love. She ends up engaged to the guy, and in some ways the ending is at least somewhat positive, but you never know. It might go downhill again after the book's over, because it's that kind of book. The title, A Spell of Good Things, refers to a line in the book that's basically that life is spells of good things that punctuate the bad stuff. So, if things are going well, they'll get back to being bad again. And, yeah, just wait a little while and it'll get back to normal. So that's kind of the feel of the book. If you like depressing books, it's well written. It's actually very well written. It's a little hard to get into if you like to know what all the words mean in the books you read. Because this book, while it is well written, I don't think there's anything wrong with the novel itself. The publisher needed to include a glossary, because there are a lot of words in this book that are not in English and that you can't figure out from context. They're eating a bowl of something. I don't know what the bowl of something is. There are several different bowls of something that are eaten in this book. The context doesn't explain it at all. Sometimes, mashed yams? Yeah, I know what mashed yams are. I don't know what all the other stuff is. There's a lot of food in the book, so that's why the food references are in particular where these come up. But if this is going to be a book that people outside of that part of Africa are going to read, it needs to have glossary or footnotes, because I actually have friends from that area, and they've fed me before. I may not know what the food would be called in that part of Africa, but I've eaten the food, probably. But most of my friends that are not from that part of my life actually don't know people from this part of the world. So they don't even have that reference. And I still don't know what the words mean. So I would love to see in future editions of this book, it does deserve to have future editions of this book, I would love to see a glossary or footnotes to define what the words mean the first time they appear in the book. And where they are speaking in something that's not English, I would really like to have a translation, because I feel like I'm missing quite a lot of the story whenever those words pop up. If they're not important, they don't need to be a mystery. If the point is not what they're saying that's not in English, then it's drawing attention to the wrong things that we don't know what they say. So that's just my pet peeve about this book. Most books like this do have something to key in readers that don't have that language. And considering the number of languages that could be used the way the non-English words are used in here, I think that should be just a general rule of thumb. If you're publishing a book that you expect people outside of your culture to be reading, and you're using words that are not the words that, the language that you're writing in, you need to provide context or translation of some sort in the text or in a glossary, just to make it accessible so that your book can have a wide enough readership to get a next edition. So otherwise, it is a good book. Of the books I read this week, it's probably the best one. I will do another video summarizing what I'm going to read for week 3. Week 3 is getting into the final lead up to Dewey's readathon, which happens on Saturday, a week from today, starting at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So I'll definitely do more videos that are bookish this week because of that, and another vlog video definitely tonight by popular request from at least one of my friends that really liked the last one. So I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.